All right, well, it's my pleasure right now to be joined by one of my heroes, one of the greats, a Hall of Famer, an Emmy winner, one of the best in the business, sports broadcasting, Ted Robinson. You know him from calling so many great sports. I think you're one of the most versatile broadcasters ever. Ted, it's so great to have you with us. Where are you right now? Because we have the MGM Slam we got to talk about coming
I
up
know.
on the 1st here in Vegas, which we love, but you got a whole thing going on with the Olympics. This is what, your 15th time covering the
Yeah.
Olympics?
Yes, Mike, thank you. That's my 15th Olympics. This is the third one I'm calling from the United States. I did the two COVID Olympics, 21 and 22, both from the US. And the sport I'm calling in the Winter Games is short track speed skating. And right now, America, we're a little bit down in that sport recently. So, bluntly, we are able to call it from Connecticut off monitors, and we actually see everything because it's a very confined space. Obviously, skaters are all colorful uniforms. For those who don't know short track, please try it at some point during the games. It is crazy. It is chaotic. Kalshi has no track in this thing at all. You can't predict anything, and it's just really a lot of fun. It's just a very enjoyable sport to watch.
See, that's critical. You know, the Cowshy, if they're not able to predict, that's good. You
Yeah.
called all the incredible stuff with Apollo Ono, right? Like back in the days, right?
Yes, I did. This is my eighth Winter Games. Seven of them I've called short track, and I did call all eight of Apollo Ono's medals. And he was extraordinary. He was my partner, actually, working in the 2018 games, but this is the 20th anniversary of a significant gold medal for him. He won in the 2006 games, which were also in Italy, and he wanted to be back. He's physically in Milan, doing just kind of a big Apollo. Not a
Yeah.
bad life. Not a bad life.
You know, it's so fascinating. Growing up, you're from Rockville Center. You're a guy who really wanted to be an athlete, but then you broke your leg playing football or your ankle, and it really changed everything for you. And it put you on this trajectory to become, you know, a broadcaster and pursue this. You go to Notre Dame and you do the whole thing. You started off doing minor league hockey. I mean, and it's incredible the heights you've gotten to. How, tell us a little bit as a guy who's just done everything, synonymous with tennis and, you know, the 49ers. I mean, your voice, your face has been front and center for so many great things. Thinking back now, as you're doing your 15th Olympics, do you think back to when you broke your ankle playing football and like this whole trajectory and how this has transpired?
Yeah. Yes, Mike. I mean, obviously, I'll try to be very short here, but look, that injury was a blessing in disguise because I was a scuffling person who just wanted to play anything. I was working hard to try to be a football player at a very good high school as a walk on, believe it or not. And this injury, which was a freak thing, happened back then. They didn't do surgery. So I was in plaster for 5 months and was uh, tutored, which now today's day they call that homeschooling. I was tutored. I couldn't physically go to school. My leg was immobile. So that forced me to confront reality. And that's the blessing. And what I fell into was the next best thing that I'd always looked at was being, if I can't be playing in the games, I'd like to be at the games and talking about them. So the path that I followed was to go to college specifically to pursue this. Back then, you know, we didn't have cable television. We didn't, obviously, there was no internet, but you had to take a job wherever you could get one. So that was where minor league hockey took me. And it's just been a series of good steps, and obviously you need along the way. No, you know what, Mike? We are no different. And I say this all the time, and I get eye rolled by people, but we're no different than actors. Actors have a different skill set, clearly, but we are judged subjectively, all of us. There's no definitive metric measure of how we perform. It's, does somebody like it? Does somebody not like it? You know, obviously people watch or they don't. People buy tickets to go see a movie with this star, or they don't. So there is some little way to assess, but most of it's subjective. And I've been very lucky because along the way, I've had three or four specific people that believed in me and gave me that chance to take a step up the ladder.
And you also believed in a guy named Charlie Weiss, right? You hired him at Notre Dame at
Yeah.
the radio
Yeah.
station. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, very true. As I said, I had two famous classmates, one of whom played football at Notre Dame and then went on and did okay otherwise, named Joe Montana. And the other was Charlie Weiss, who never played it down. He played the same number of football downs as I did, zero. But Charlie was a New Jersey guy. I'm a New Yorker, born and raised New
Yeah.
Yorker. So we had that. But Charlie knew sports. And when I was a student in charge of the student radio station senior year, and Charlie came and tried out, and he knew what he was talking about. He was very sure of himself, which I think most people who followed football would know that about listening to Charlie.
Yeah.
He was the same way as a student. He was very sure of himself, but he did know it. And so, yeah, that's a story we revisited a little bit during the time he was the coach at Notre Dame.
I love it. You know what's so fascinating to me, and I'm, being, not at the level you are, but in the same business, it's fascinating because you, to me, have always been a guy who you, like you're saying with the being an actor, you, when you're on the call, there is something that invites me to be, joined by you, but you also don't overdo it and make it about yourself, and you're able to really toe that line in such a great way. And I think nowadays everybody has an opinion on everything, but there's a lot of broadcasters that I just don't think do such a tremendous job with that. And it's amazing to me your versatility along with that, because I think me growing up in a household where tennis was very important, you were just a guy who always seemed to really, a lot of people know football. A lot of people know basketball. A lot of people know baseball. You really can know all that and then really come front and center and be a guy like who can talk with John McEnroe about tennis. So tell me a little bit how the role tennis has served in your life, because I think it's fascinating how great you are when it comes to calling the sport of tennis.
Well, I thank you. I take that compliment very with great humility because that's been my thing, Mike, all the time. And I grew up, as I said, listening to New York announcers, and that was the theme. It was never about you; it was about relaying the event. And of course, you're trying to entertain people in doing so. Nobody wants to listen to a boring, monotonal recitation as if you're reading poetry. So there has to be a little bit of verve and
Yeah.
spice in what we do. We have to do that. But the two sports we're talking about right here, I think, summarize where I went through because I was a ball sport. I was a New York City ball sport kid. I wanted to do ball sports. Hockey was my first entry. Then it became baseball, and I thought I would be a baseball announcer for a long time. And two things happened. One was I was offered a chance randomly to work the U.S. Open tennis in 1987 for
Wow.
USA Network, which shockingly is getting back into sports now in its reinvented form. And I knew 15, 30, 40 deuce. I knew how to keep score. And I knew the names McEnroe, Connors, Borg, Gerulaitis,
That was
Evert,
it.
Navratilova.
Oh my
But
God.
knowing the sport, no, I grew up, my childhood job, I was a caddy at a golf course on Long Island. So I knew golf. I didn't know tennis. But you sit there and listen to champions. And eventually, John McEnroe became my longest running and most, obviously, just we became good friends, um, partner. But I've worked with a lot of Hall of Fame tennis players. If you can't learn something, that's on me. The second part was in 1997, and I was doing some basketball for CBS. And I went to the executive producer who had been great with me. And I said, listen, I would love to do one Olympics. And they were doing the Winter Games of 1998 in Nagano, Japan. And I asked, just please, if I can go, I don't care what sport it is, put me on anything. Well, he said yes, and he assigned me to four sports. I did four sports. It was
Wow.
sort of the beginning of being a jack of all trades announcer. But that was the beginning to me of 15 consecutive Olympics because NBC, unbeknownst to me, then was going to come and hire me for the very next games, and 36 consecutive years of tennis. So the end point to I make to young people today is you can't choreograph this business. We all try when we're young.
Yeah.
You can't choreograph it. And don't resist when the stream, the current is taking you in a direction you didn't expect. Go with it.
Yeah.
And if people tell you, and that's what happened with me, was people reacted positively to tennis I was doing early, and I didn't understand it, but I didn't fight it. I said, thank you very much.
Hey,
And
that's so
it's been a long
fascinating
thing.
to me. I would
Yeah.
never guess that. And I always tell people I was lucky enough to interview John McEnroe. He is one of the greatest, former athletes doing color. I mean, he really knows his stuff and he's entertaining and I'm the biggest fan of him as well. But yeah, it's true. I mean, it's so full circle because Rockville Center, backyard, really close to Queens, Flushing Meadows, where all the U.S. Open action is happening. But it was a country club sport, and Rockville Center, it's kind of, I think Howard Stern's from there, maybe Eddie Murphy, right? I think are from
Nearby. Yeah.
nearby.
Yeah, it's a close-in suburb. It's a
Yeah,
close-in
of
suburb
Long
to
Island.
Manhattan, which is
Yeah.
why we ended up there as a family. And I grew up going to Shea Stadium. My father was a Brooklyn Dodger fan, so I became a New York Met fan by default. And I grew up going to Shea my entire childhood. So the tennis center, I always saw the original Louis Armstrong Stadium there, but and again, never envisioned that would be an eventual place I'd spend so much time.
Right. So now, as we're looking forward towards Sunday or Saturday, the 1st of March, where we're going to have the MGM Slam presented by Capital One. Obviously, now the CW network's involved. It's going to be broadcast. We're going to have you on the call, but there's going to be so much great action here. We're going to see Fritz, Tommy Paul, Nick Kyrgios is going to be in there for some entertaining excitement as well. Musetti, who we just saw bow out against Djokovic in interesting fashion, up 2 sets, and he got hurt. Tell us how excited you are for this MGM Slam.
Well, it's terrific on two fronts. First of all, I spent 12 years doing the Pac-12 basketball tournament, both at the Grand Garden Arena, and then once we moved across the street to T-Mobile, but always in conjunction with MGM. They were fabulous hosts, did a
Yeah.
great job, and we were just Bill Walton was my partner for 11 of the
Wow.
12 until we lost Bill, and he loved MGM, and we just MGM always treated us great. So that's the first part. The second part is it's tie breaks. So this is going to be, there'll be a bunch of tie breaks, but it will move fairly quickly. And it's a fascinating, takeoff on perhaps taking a 3-point shooting contest from basketball or the shootout that ends hockey games now. This is a specific part of tennis that's used as a tie break, literally, but it's focused on itself. And it's an interesting dynamic to me because the common thought would be, and I had this thought, that the biggest serving players would have a statistical edge in whether it's 7 points to win or 10 points to win tiebreak. And that is not borne out by the stats. It is not at all. And the tiebreak is kind of a 50 to 55% proposition. There's never a huge tilt either way. So that's what makes it fun, because all of these tiebreaks should be very competitive.
Yeah.
There'll be seven of them in total. And even a guy like Kyrgios that no longer is playing the full tour, he's no longer playing full matches, but to go out there and play 10-point tiebreak he's gifted. Kyrgios is gifted. If he brings his gifts to the arena that day, it's going to be a really entertaining show.
Yeah, and if he brings a little bit of that attitude, people are going to be excited as well. You can go get tickets right now at AXS.com. March 1st, it's going to be a lot of fun to see these superstars up close. You can't beat it. Last thing I got to ask you. So you were on the broadcast team for the Oakland A's at one point in your career. What's your take on, the Athletics coming to Vegas one day soon?
Well, it's obviously emotional. I worked, and again, I don't want to bore people, but I worked twice for the Oakland A's in 1980. I was an unemployed minor league hockey announcer. The team I was working for folded middle of a season. And to just get to the point, I cold called, because in 1980, that's what you had to do. I cold called Charlie Finley, who was the owner of the A's.
Wow.
And I was 22 years old, unemployed. I had the spine to do it, and he hired me. And I worked for the A's that season for 4 months in a front office job that wasn't very important. Then I came back 5 years later. By that time, the A's were being run by the Haas family and starting the success that they eventually had with the Bash Brothers era. And I did their television games for 3 years. It was emotional. I wish it didn't happen. I'm no longer going to litigate the past. I do happen to know John Fisher, and I like John Fisher. We swim together at the same place,
Oh,
and we swim in the same place in the Bay Area. I shouldn't say that. So I bump into John occasionally. I knew him when he was originally part of the ownership group for the Giants. I like John, and John cares enough. And I'm thrilled that Mark McGuire just signed back up because he was a great part of the history. And so, look, it's done. The Sacramento situation is temporary, and I pray because I was in the last time I came through Vegas, I saw the empty spot where the stadium is going to be, and obviously the next thing you see will be when it starts to rise. And I don't know if it is yet. If it's starting, if there's a structure starting to rise out of the ground, that's the moment when you know it's real. Is when you
okay.
see something coming up out of the ground. But no, I know John has said vividly, and I do know some people that are investing with him now for this very purpose. That once this Vegas thing happens, the revenue situation will be very different. They'll be able to compete. And that's what didn't happen the last, as we all know from Moneyball forward, that didn't happen the last, 15 years or so in Oakland.
Yeah. All right. It's great to get your perspective. Look at that. The gumption on a young Ted Robinson to call up the owner of the A's and get a job with Mr. Finley. How exciting is that? Ted, you're the best. We wish you all the best of luck calling these Olympic Games. And, of course, we can't wait to see you here in Vegas for the MGM Slam presented by Capital One. Thanks so much for spending so much time with us. We know you're busy and you got a lot going on.
Well, no, I'm excited to be back. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on March 1st to be back in the arena. Although I got to come back for a hockey game. That's the thing that I haven't done yet. Need
Dude,
to do that.
we
Yeah,
need you here for a VGK, some Vegas Golden
I know.
Knights action. You'd love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much. We'll see you soon.